The suit he got for the wedding, he used that same suit for interviews for medical school because we couldn't afford any other. The same dress I wore for my white coat ceremony, I took pictures in for my graduation. And it was the same dress I wore for match day. You have to definitely be creative. And I think that is one of the huge thing about low income medical students is there is a resilience and creativity that you're building by being able to figure out how to do the same things or more than students who have financial means. Multiple times we almost got kicked out because we couldn't afford rent because our student loans weren't hitting fast enough, or there was some issue with the student loans that we had to wait. I am so excited to do this episode, financial implications of being a pre-medical and medical student coming from a lower social economic status, because it's been requested and not a lot of people talk about, and it is super important. What am I talking about? Finances. As a low-income medical student, I and my husband both went to medical school, and we both took out full student loans for our finances. So that meant that we did not have financial support from any other besides student loans. Now, a lot of stuff happened, and we learned a lot of lessons that I hope to impart. There are a majority of individuals who do not have this challenge. If you're in the minority of students, I've written a couple blog posts, the Navigating Financial Challenges as a Pre-Medical Student and a Medical Student Comprehensive Guide. So I'll be going over that blog post, adding in extras, because last time I wrote this was back in October 2022. That was a while ago. So I will also hope to add stuff like increasing cost of attendance, student loans, food stamps, Medicaid, apply to medical school, residency. Let's dig into it. Why am I going over this right now? Because residency, we don't make doctor money, as in we don't make $300,000, $400,000 yet. My husband and I doubled individually our income as a medical student. Wait, hold on. What? Yes. We, as medical students, our individual incomes that they gave us for living expenses, student loans from the government, was $2,400 each. So together, our annual living allowance was $5,000 per month. Now, with all the stuff we had, it was pretty much just $4,000, because there were also months that we didn't get money. So how we budgeted was $4,000 a month. That's not a lot. And to give an example, I had people in my medical school class that were paying rent for $3,500. One person, $3,500. And those individuals did not use student loans because you would have no money for food, for a car, for even the utilities. This blog post that says Navigating the Financial Challenges, a little tiny view to what it felt like to be in that difficult time. Multiple times we almost got kicked out because we couldn't afford rent because our student loans weren't hitting fast enough, or there was some issue with the student loans that we had to wait. I bring that in because it's sometimes when you're in your own bubble, you don't know what other people are struggling with or are not struggling with. I like to show that there is a difference in coming from a low income, and that's what we are. When we're medical students, we are at a low income bracket. So because $2,000 to $2,400 a month, that's a lot of people, that's their rent. And thankfully, because both my husband and I were together, we both had a medical student federal government loan income, we can combine our finances, which is something that we had done all the way through college, because we went through college together. We had our gap years together. We had medical school together. So we combined our income together early on. So we knew what this was to deal with learning how to live with very low money. at the very lowest income bracket. I'm losing track of thought. Oh, the reason that I'm so excited to say this, especially today, I'm moving. I'm moving up in life. I was making 2,400. And now, as a resident, I get my first paycheck after 2 weeks of July. We are on a salary as residents. We still get money every 2 weeks. So if you have a job, which this is a job, you get paid every 2 weeks. In total, we get about a living income about $4,500 a month. Remember, that is half or double, sorry, half of in medical school. I made half that. Now both of my husband and I are residents, and it goes up a little bit every time, and each residency is different. Mine is around 60,000, his is going up to 70,000. Quite a bit of difference. But I will allow it because he worked a lot more than me as a neurology resident versus a psychiatry resident. But anyway, no matter what, we both get paid. Our said thing go together. We are now have our overall income by both being residents. If it's both doubled, it is quadrupled. Isn't that crazy? So we are treating ourselves to live in the Chicago high-rise apartments. And I am so happy. This has been, I know it's a dream for us. We went from first year of medical school outside on the first floor where there were shootings, where we were scared that bullets would actually go through and actually there were 3 murders in the 9 months that we lived there during first year of medical school. So we moved out of that, and then second year and my gap year, COVID, we lived in a house where there were actual rats and mice in the house, which the landlord didn't want to get rid of, said it was normal. It is not normal, we learned. There are students that we've talked to in our class that are like, I've never seen a rat before. We see one every single time we take our dogs out to the bathroom in our backyard because the trash is everywhere. It's sad that individuals that live in a lower income bracket, maybe they have landlords that don't change the trash cans. So holes get on the bottom of the trash cans, which rats get in. They don't poison the rats, or they don't keep a clean environment, or have the buildings fall apart. During that second house that we stayed in, there were holes in the basement. And so rats and mice would get in when it got cold. So again, nothing that we did. It was the building and the landlord that didn't keep the house up to code. And so that was really horrible experience, but we couldn't afford to move anywhere else. At that time, I think our rent was like 2,000, maybe 200. And then we moved to this place, which has a beautiful brick. But like I said, there's still rats in the back. Our dogs actually right now have diarrhea because the other tenants also have pets and don't clean up after their pets. So my dog caught something. Probably now have to take him to the vet, but also another expense. But anyway, and lower income houses also, yeah, this is a brick. Nowhere else in the building are brick. So what that happened is it's very thin walls and very thin floors. So a lot of times people are coming in at 3 a.m., coming back from the bars and stomping up the stairs. It happened 2 nights ago, and my husband had just come off a 16-hour on-call shift in GMF, General Medical Floors, and had to be up at 6 a.m. And we kept getting woken up. That wasn't the first time. I remember first year of medical school, we had a resident live above us, but he had 2 little kids that we could constantly hear them playing and running back and forth, even during our practice exams, because it was during COVID. No, this was right before COVID. Or during that time, we're doing tests, actual tests on our computers, and we're hearing kids run upstairs, obviously hard to focus. And we couldn't go anywhere else, especially during COVID. So yeah, there's a lot of challenges. And so we are so excited that we finally have given enough money to go to the high rises. And we're in an area where there's a lot of other physicians and working professionals. So hopefully not as much 3 a.m. waking up. They also have a trash chute. It sounds so fancy, but then you never see the trash can. That concept, I can't even think about that being a possibility. But anyway, talking about my experiences. Anyway, I'll go over the financial implications of bringing a pre-medical and medical student coming from a lower social economic status, or SES. In 2019, both my husband and I applied and were accepted to medical school, but little did we expect that the financial complications and financial trauma, I'll talk about that a lot, would occur before our loans were even due to be paid back. In fact, financial insecurities disproportionately affect students from low-income communities and underrepresented students in medicine, like Black and Latinx, because they have less financial assistance from their families to subsidize their medical education and living expenses, like us. And I'm not going to say all, because my husband's white, but his family has other children to take care of, has a brother, an adult child with special needs. And so they couldn't afford to help us with medical school. And that's fine. And we recognize that because we are married. And that was also part of the culture, at least the culture that I came from. When you're married, the husband is supposed to provide. And so that was definitely also a challenge, because to some part of it, it was like, okay, you chose to get married, you chose to go to medical school, or you chose to get married before you were done with college, before you were done with medical school. Have fun paying. And that's something else. But I did want to say that, because just because you're Caucasian doesn't mean you can still come from a lower income household or have family situations that they're not able to send you thousands of dollars for rent or for food or for your car or things like that. So I'm going to talk about the cost of just applying to medical school as a married couple, and the extra costs no one really talks about during medical school. So if you're a pre-medical student, this would help. If you're not a pre-medical student, feel free to skip this chapter. So just to apply to medical school, it will expect to pay about $5,000 to $10,000 or more per person. And this is how. MCAT exam, now this was back a couple years ago, but this is about how much it was for us. Just to take the practice exam, it's $325 for every time you take it. So if you're like most individuals that don't pass it or don't do as well in the first time, you have to take it multiple times. Just to be clear, we each took the MCAT twice. We did a virtual self-paced MCAT class that we shared, but also had a book. MCAT practice tests, resources, maybe a class or a tutor, that can at least cost $200. I know we couldn't afford to do like a one-on-one tutor or a class, but we like bought together that we shared an online prep that from Kaplan that gave us tons of books. And so we shared those books. And I guess that was one way that was really nice going to college and pre-med, is the fact that we only had to have one first aid book, one Kaplan book, one chemistry book, one organic chemistry book, because we just shared it, and that decreased our costs. Back in 2023, the application fee was $170 for the first school and $43 for each additional school. Oh my goodness. And I just finished applying to residency, and it was a similar thing that like every 10 schools, they would up the price, which they say it's to limit people from applying, but really it's limiting people of low income, because people with income are still going to apply to as many programs as they want. So really, you're just limiting people of lower economic status. And then ridiculous is you have to pay again if you have a secondary application. And then for residency, there is secondary applications, thankfully not for psychiatry. And then for pre-med, you had to pay $75 to $150 per school. So again, giving the money without even a guarantee that you would get an interview. You would have to pay your college to send the transcripts. You would have to pay for a service to hold the letter of recommendations and send them. Thankfully, my school didn't make me do that for medical school, but they did for college. Application review editing service. This is a hard one. And my husband and I couldn't afford this, but we did it anyway. And we went on a lot of credit card debt for it. The reason we ended up doing it was because we knew that we couldn't afford to apply multiple times. So this was like we're doing it once. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. If one of us gets into medical school, the other one will do something else. And I know for me, I was fully ready to do that in the concept of giving up my aspirations or dream of being in medicine, because at that point, I was working as a case manager. I was getting paid more than I'd ever gotten paid, $40,000 a year, versus I was previously a caregiver at a nursing home facility. And I was getting paid like $12 an hour, where this would be like $20 an hour. So already a huge jump. Yeah, but you can individually choose. I do editing for pre-med and medical students, and I was doing it for free. I'm charging a little bit, and it's really hard for me to charge people because I was there too. But then I also recognize like the fact that I have limited time now, and especially residency. But I was like, okay, $1 per minute, but we'll see. We'll see. But if that's something you are interested in, you can see my link to sign up on my website, medpsychmoss.com, or I'll also link below. There's this next 2 months that we're not paid, so we're only relying on his income. And with moving, like we're having a lot of expenses, and we would like to buy some new things. Towels. Isn't that funny? Because we haven't bought towels since maybe college. No, maybe first year medical school. Bed sheets. We want to buy silverware. So obviously it'll change. But anyway, oh, and then clothing. Oh my goodness, clothing. I remember when my husband bought his suit. I think the suit he got for the wedding, he used that same suit for interviews for medical school because we couldn't afford any other. And then I've gotten all my suits like Goodwill and different used clothing. That's how I get my little fix of that. Always makes me happy by going. I still love shopping, but my shopping is like going to Goodwill and oh my goodness, what I can't. But obviously I can't afford it often. It's only like a couple of times a year. So you can actually even see, I was just looking back at pictures, and the same dress I wore for my white coat ceremony, I just took pictures in for my graduation. And it was the same dress I wore for match day. Right now, I feel like I'm just sharing different real life examples. It is embarrassing, but at the same time, it's my reality. And I know that other people are like that too. I know that other students struggle with finances, no matter where they are. And what's the purpose of why I do this? I remind myself, especially in these moments where I feel more vulnerable or embarrassed or also sad, that it is my reality. And I know it's not going to be forever. And I think that was part of it, of thinking of one day it'll get better. And I know that's also a challenge thing. And then we did pay for an application review and editing, which I think was really successful in being able to make sure that we could articulate our story, articulate our passion to medicine, and allowed us to get into multiple medical schools together and multiple places throughout the country. And then some additional economic things was like back in that time, we still had to fly out. Oh, and I guess that's why also it was $20,000 because we had to pay for flying. And we applied to all over the country because we really wanted to make sure we got in together. It's so funny thinking back, and flights, transportation, Ubers, hotel stay. Sometimes, thankfully, I could stay with students for free. And once we were in medical school, we tried to do this too prior to the pandemic. There's actually a student that's graduating with me that stayed with us at our apartment when he was interviewing for medical school. And he ended up going to medical school together and now is graduating with me. So that's pretty cool. It was worth it, but here are some things that we wish we also knew. There's a fee assistance program for the application service that we are not aware of, but we probably could qualify for, and is linked on that blog post. Sometimes you can ask schools to waive your secondary application cost. Combined, our total application was around $20,000. That's how much we went into medical school in debt for. And that was one of the biggest challenges and problems, because we were like, oh, credit card, we can pay this off. Like, we'll get paid in medical school. And so part of it will just go to pay for the credit card debt to pay off getting into medical school because it's worth it. But that didn't equate. We never knew that things would happen, that the pandemic would hit, that I would have to take a leave of absence where they took away my income, where I had to work 3 jobs while studying for step 1. Different things like that. If you're currently in college, save for the application because it's expensive. Credit cards are really horrible because they have a huge interest rate, and that builds up quickly. We'll talk about interest and how much a pain that is. Yeah, stay tuned. There's a secret to that. I also put in a website of how to reduce the medical applications costs by Blueprint, which was helpful. Okay, that was pre-medicine with a little bit of medical school in there. Now, if you're a medical student, let's talk about medical school and specifically the financial disaster we had during when I had to take an unexpected leave of absence. And if you haven't seen those episodes, you can see those episodes. As I once again receive an email regarding not paying rent yet this month and have another late fee added, I'm reminded of the financial inequities that plague the medical educational system. Medical school is not created for individuals of lower and middle social economic status. Even though we are provided the ability to take out federal loans for school and living expenses that are not easily accessible, nor really enough to really live or do well in our education. In fact, we are given living expenses allocation, which are about 250% of the federal poverty level. And thinking about it, that is something I took, like it just as normal, but I guess thinking about it, it's not normal to have to share books or share PDFs or share subscriptions, share online subscriptions because we're in the same household. I guess a lot of other people I've talked to do it if they're roommates, which I want to mention. This is pretty much a roommate's situation if you talk about like just financially. So it is a way that a lot of medical students have to save money. I'm not even going to say save money because we're not saving money. It's we don't have a choice. Now, granted, I would want to live with my husband, but a lot of people do not have the choice of whether or not they can have a roommate. There's actually a student in my medical school class that she was also married, but her husband was not in medicine. And he worked a job, but even with his job, plus she had student loans, they still had to get a roommate. And we considered that, but it was just something that we didn't want to do. We don't like to talk about medicine, the always looking forward, that it will get better, it will get better. So yeah, there is part of me of, there were parts that how I got through it is, okay, I'm enjoying the time right now with the little that we have. Anniversary, we have a fondue pot that we've used all through college and all through medical school. So our favorite thing was making homemade fondue, and our splurging was using our food stamps. And knowing that we get an extra $100 of food stamps, let's splurge this month and just buy tons of cheeses and do a charcuterie board or make a fondue with fancy fruits. Anyway. Okay, sorry, I had to pause because I am doing Facebook Marketplace as I'm selling things, which I guess honestly is a thing on finances in itself, is the ability to go through your things every single time you move or when you have time and be like, am I using this? Is this bringing me joy? Or is this useful? Or did I even use this the past year? Or is it time to get another one? Or is this time to donate? Or is this time to trash? So many things, but anything that has a little bit of value, thankfully, I've been successful at selling and using the money that we get to then buy more, but buy things of higher quality that last longer, which has been helpful in thinking about finances. We're very careful with what we buy. And it's interesting because you would think when you see something, our trash can, because I'm selling the trash can, it's a simple human that cost maybe 100. Oh no, I'm selling it for 50. So I think it was like $150 when we first bought it. Granted, we bought it from Bed Bath & Beyond. We got it 20% off. We've also had that trash can, I think, before medical school. So that trash can, yes, a trash can, we've kept it for over 6 years. And the only reason we're getting rid of it is because our new apartment, even though it's nicer and in the high rises, is smaller. And so we're going to go into the trash cans that you can pull out from like down below. There's a couple things. It's like, one, it still has value, so I can sell it to be able to afford smaller ones, and also the hardware that it's going to take to pull out, which I guess is another thing that Jonah has always, since he's a little kid, he almost became an engineer. His father's an engineer. So he builds out everything. If he can't afford something, he goes to Home Depot and installs it and creates it. But anyway, buy things of quality, not the name brand just because it's a name brand. Buy name brands that you know that can last forever, or even when you need to get rid of them, can still have value when you sell them, has really been the biggest thing for us. That's helped the most. Honestly, I'm thinking about it, even this bookshelf. We got this bookshelf right before medical school. And I remember we fell in love with it because we both love books. And it's walnut, and it was expensive from Crate and Barrel, but we fell in love with it. And we've looked at other bookshelves. We had looked at other bookshelves throughout the years that were cheaper from IKEA. They kept breaking or didn't look good. But this is now kept through multiple moves because we moved every single year. We've literally moved every single year since we've been together, honestly. Every single year, because we met our senior in high school. So then we moved to college, and our dorm rooms were different from first year to second year to third year when we were RAs till fourth year where we were in an apartment. Gap years, we were in different homes. Every single year of medical school, we've moved every single year. And now here, this is the longest place we've been in. We've been here 2 years, and that's pretty impressive. Anyway, we're talking about the bookshelf. But yeah, we've loved it and we've kept it and it's remained. And so yeah, that has been a big one. But also recognizing when you can get something of higher quality used. For example, our new couch that we got for our new place. Couches can be multiple thousands of dollars. I think that couch probably new is like $5,000, but we know the brand and we know it's lasted. So we bought it used from an individual for $500. We just bought it though for our new place. But like my Chase, we got that again from first year medical school. But anyway, that's been our theme all the time, is determine when something can be bought, used. A lot of Jonah's high quality coats he's gotten off eBay. He's gonna hate this. His watch, his medical school watch, residency watch, I should say, because we had to sell it when I took my leave of absence. So we rebought it when he got into residency, but we bought it used again. So it is interesting because all these things, I'm like saying them and I'm like laughing to myself because they're so normal for me in our experience, but then saying them out loud makes me realize and recognize, no, other people don't have to do this, or other people don't go through it, or maybe some people do. And especially nowadays where there's a lot of people in my generation, in Gen Z, I can't remember what the younger generation, sorry, I'm no longer the youngest, that have to live with their parents or living with multiple people because they can't afford rent, because rent is more expensive than the money they get from their work. It's just like medical school loans. Okay, we're talking about medical school finances. So we talked about miscellaneous and things, groceries and food. I understand now. Okay. It's because I broke it down if it was one person, but when I do my budget, it's two people because we're combined. I wrote my blog post as if it was one person. And so I was like, oh, that's not. I feel like I talk about this in other episodes, like the cost of health insurance. And you know what? This is a great time to bring in the increased cost of attendance, which I didn't realize people don't know about it. So please ask your financial aid office, where's their paperwork for increasing your cost of attendance? Because it's part of our federal loans that there are certain things that we can ask to increase our cost of attendance. And let me say, I've done that. I do it almost every couple of months. And these are what I use it for. One, medical expenses. So every single time I pay my copays for my medications, for my doctor's visits. Okay, sorry, that was really weird. You know what? Why not? I'm open about other things. So why wouldn't I be open about this? So while I was just recording, I kept swallowing and I've been like, what is that? And I realized my nose was bleeding. I'm on a medication for my acne. One of the side effects of my health condition is hormones being weird, which then I have acne that I've had all my life. And I've been working really hard to get rid of it. And I'm on my final stretch of isotretinoin medication, which makes things very dry. I'm constantly licking my lips because my lips are chapped, even though I constantly use chapstick and everything and coconut oil and everything. That means that my actual nose, the vasculature, everything in my nose inside was also dry, everything that has pores. Anyway, finances. We were talking about increased costs of attendance, medications, medicine. That goes into the isotretinoin. I've been using that because on the isotretinoin, you have to go every month to the dermatologist to make sure you're not pregnant, even though I have infertility. Again, other episode. And I also have to get blood draws. They charge me to go to the dermatologist. They charge me to get isotretinoin. 3 things every month. I've been increasing my cost of attendance every couple months, submitting all my bills, submitting all my therapy bills, all of it, which is nice because then the money that they give me for living expenses, I can increase it for medical expenses, which if you don't have a chronic health condition or don't have mental health conditions, maybe that's not something you need. But if you're in that population, please take advantage of that. Looking at the form, and this is new. They didn't have this before. They just added it because so many people were asking. If you have kids I've interviewed other people who are parents in medical school. You can increase your cost of living for daycare expenses. Amazing. You can also buy a computer or a laptop one time for your entire 4 or 5 years of medical school. Increase cost of attendance. That's what it's called. This one has been really helpful. Purchase 2 round-trip plane tickets to see your family. This one is also new for away rotations. That was, I guarantee they did not have that before, but I'm so glad they added it, especially for my school. And it has to be for other schools too, because you're in school, you are going and living, you're commuting to another place for a month as an audition for a residency. So you're going to need to have money for housing, for travel, for parking, for food, all that. So I'm so glad they added that in. Let's see what else you can use. PhD dissertation expenses. I'm going to put that to include research. So going to conferences, they couldn't do it for this. There's a separate form, not for cost of attendance, but thankfully for just tuition. My school just started doing it. I wish they did it earlier. Maybe this will be a good time to talk about it. That's going to conferences, presenting posters. Those are really good ways to get noticed for your future residency, get experience, and those cost money. It costs money just like applying to medical school, applying to residency, flying out, because not all of them are in your city. Definitely go to ones in your city. That's cheaper. Ask your school if they have any programs. At our school, they just created that you can apply for a one-time $750 that you can use for housing, but only a limited time. You have to do a poster. There's all these qualifications. But again, it's a way to be a medical student and as a low-income medical student. Other ways that I did it for research, I always applied to funding through the department. So I went to a lot of family medicine conferences. My family medicine leadership program paid for it. My department paid for it. Or I applied for scholarships of the conferences, check if they have them. Or I volunteered at the conferences. They paid for your entrance. All these different ways. You have to definitely be creative. And I think that is one of the huge thing about low income medical students is there is a resilience, creativity that you're building by being able to figure out how to do the same things or more than students who have financial means. Relocation expenses, maybe relocating during COVID or as an M1. So yeah, those are awesome. I hope you take advantage of them. I definitely did. I made this to just give you some simple things of navigating finances. I'm still waiting for my husband to get off his resident. He's still in the hospital. He was supposed to get off an hour, 40 minutes ago. That's residency for you. So I might as well keep going. I'm going to give some other financial resources that we've used that have been really helpful. So in addition to the cost of attendance, living, food stamps, which we're currently not on them anymore because once my husband got into his residency, we bumped out of that bracket. It was super helpful when I was on my leave of absence and during my 3rd year, and he was during his 4th year of medical school. So check to see if you qualify. You have to have a 0 financial support and no external income. If under the 250 percentile of the federal poverty level. Food banks and food support. I remember I mentioned this one before during my leave of absence, the Lasagna Love team. I want to just shout out to them because they helped me during my leave of absence. There was a period where we didn't know what we were going to do. This is before food stamps. It was horrible. And that lasagna, literally, we got it maybe 2 or 3 times and it really helped. Medicaid application that can decrease cost of medications, ER visits, utility support. So each city usually can decrease the cost that you're paying for like electricity or water. If you have a baby or about to have a baby, WIC application, they give you food, formula, diapers. There's a lot of stuff. I hope some of those help. And my husband's calling, so he is done. See you all next time.